Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. Today is another Girl Dad Talk, and I'm super excited to be joined by none other than Eric, my good pal and fellow podcaster now. Is that fun to label you as a fellow podcaster since you've been hosting for a while now?
Do
I
I
think so. I
do
think
I
you
join?
qualify.
Do I qualify?
I think
Awesome.
you qualify. Yeah. I mean, you're
You know,
definitely honing hosting skills, right? Talking skills
I
and.
get new business cards now.
I
Podcaster.
I will say we do need to give Nis some grief because he canceled last minute, so it's just going to be you and I. And I do want to expand the group a little bit because I do like this banter. We've been like talking about it at the podcasting team, and we're like, should we keep doing these? What is the format? Is this fun? Because every year we try something new, and this year it was inviting a couple of other fellow parents with me, right, to talk. And it's been really nice. And I think that I want to expand it, like get Jamie in here, or like just rotate a bunch of dads in here, and like just riff, because it is kind of fun for me to hear other people talk, and it does seem like it's pretty fun. But what do you think? Do you like it?
Yeah, sounds great. Um, I I I don't know if you know that I do this, but like probably like once a month or so, I do breakfast with like a small group, and we always have the same three core people. So me, Brett, and Neil, and then we always invite a couple people. So we have like
Mm.
we say that the perfect number of people is 5.5. So like six is like the cap, and five is the target. And we try to never go over that, so we can have just like one conversation. But it's really cool because we have like continuity in a core group, and then we get to bring in other people that are our friends, and we get to meet each other's friends. And
Yeah, 5.5 is really interesting because I don't understand how the half works. I do. I feel like I do, but I don't understand how the half works. But mathematically speaking, it's always like there's going to be at least three people that show up if you have that many people, which is nice, because it adds a little dynamic conversation.
yeah, it's great. Anyway, so I mean, I guess I was just speaking to your point about maybe adding more people.
Yeah, but what's 5.5? Like, explain that math to me because I need to
We
make sure
just say that
it's what
kind
I
of
think it is.
that's like the expected value of the number of people we should have, right? Like
Oh, got
you
it,
don't want to
got
have
it,
too
got it.
few. Like it depends on the people. If you have like five really talkative people, it can get out of control. If you have
Yeah,
six like really calm listeners, then like sometimes there's not enough action. But like 7 or 8 people is always too much. Like you'll always split into two groups, and we like to try to keep it as one conversation.
yeah. But I will say that like I feel like four is a really good number, but that's interesting to say like 5.5 because I was thinking in my mind having three core and then like three people that kind of rotate in and out when they can, and that's why it ends up being five, and that's kind of where my brain went.
That's what we do. The three core for
Okay,
us is me, Brett, and Neil.
got it. And then you just kind of rotate the other three around and just see who's available.
And
That's
Jamie
awesome, man.
actually,
Say it again.
Jamie came last time.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so fun. I really love Jamie. He's so cool. Really, really cool guy. And I can't wait to have him on the show. It's going to be really fun. But yeah, that being said, we could just catch up or talk, or we can actually go over the topic. I say we try to do both. I don't know. What do you want to do?
That sounds great. Whatever you want, man.
My content stream. I'm trying to actively post more. I'm trying to actively have share more about my opinions and thoughts. I'm actually growing in my follower count and all the platforms, and I just added X, so now I'm growing there,
Ooh.
and you know what I mean. I'm trying to get myself out there, and so it's going to be inevitable, in my opinion, that I'm going to get people that
Do you
hate me.
do you have KPIs that you track for this? Or are you like, I want to have like
Oh
six
yeah,
posts a week, or like this many 20-second clips, and
oh yeah.
those are
It's my goals are a little more higher level than that, but my team's goals are like that.
okay.
So my goals are, hey, by July, I want 10,000 followers across all my social platforms. I want 3,000 email subscribers across all my newsletter outlets. I want to meet at least 10 really interesting people that I subjectively qualify as interesting. I want to there's like these specific goals that I want to achieve. I want to get at least 3 business leads. I think it's no, it's actually 10 business leads in the next 6 months.
Okay.
Because I feel like I can convert 1 or 2 of them, and then all of this makes sense, right? As long as I get one deal from it, right?
Yeah.
And so there's like these very specific goals, and they have to hit by July. And then they're tracking that every week, those metrics every week, and they're testing things to say, oh, we did that thing. We got like 14 new followers last week because we did that thing. So let's try to do that and see if we can get it to 30 followers. And then they'll do that thing better, and then they'll get it to 30 followers. Okay, so that grows follower count. Okay, so then how do we get engagements to get more subscriptions? And then they'll test something. They're constantly testing. And so there's a list of tactics that they're optimizing and testing for every other week.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, what are so obviously like you have all these sort of like measurables that you think funnel up to ultimately the big high goal of increased follower count or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you guys pick the content? Like, what's your strategy there?
Well, it's a good conversation. I mean, that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, actually, instead of bullying, was like, I actually think I'm gonna like possibly diminish this girl dad talk and just do less of these. Do these like instead of every other, like once a month, do these like once a quarter or like even once every other month. Just do more interviews, because I think what's really been helpful for me on the metric side and like just KPIs, right, and success, has been the interviews, because the quality of people that I've been getting has been getting higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
So now I think I've been around enough, and I think more. I mean, I'm not saying the people that I had weren't important, but the people that I'm attracting and I'm able to get, look at the website and see how long it's been going, and then see other important people that have been on there, and then it's like easier for them to say yes. And so I think I'm like finally stacking into a place where I can like invite some really heavy people that are really interesting for me to meet. And will I say, and we just did this assessment the other day where I'm like, hey, I really enjoy talking to Eric and this. I really enjoy talking to Jamie and friends. It's like really fun for me. But they're also like, well, that's great, but do you want us to follow the KPIs or this? Because the KPIs are telling us that you gain more followers that attract more, guests, and you get more unique engagement and more, you know what I mean? Like your everything is telling us that you have to interview more people. And so it's kind of like that's very interesting, because it's like me projecting my emotions versus my objectivity. And I think that it's important to like think about what the point of this is, because I do this for fun. I do this for my personal enjoyment and my journey to learn. But at the same time, like how much do I value it for being a mechanism for my business and my livelihood? I don't know. It's a really weird one for me.
Well, I mean, there's like this Venn diagram that of where you can have both at the same time,
Yeah,
right?
why are the circles so small? I mean, you could have been like this, you could have been like that. You literally went like this. That's so mean, man. I don't know why you did that psychologically or what, but yeah.
But like, that you could surely there's some overlap of content
Mhm.
where if like me, you, and Miss talk about it, it actually drives follower count,
That's right.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like how much time is spent in discovering what that content area is.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, and that's the thing though. That's because I don't spend that much time on that, right? Like I try not to like spend too much time on follower count and on the KPIs, but like it's also interesting to see the data. So it's like weird, you know what I mean? Because like when you look at the data, you're like, oh, I guess if you have the data that shows it and it keeps working, then we should probably just do that and then
Right.
and make this make more money. But on the flip side, it's like I don't, but I really care. I don't know. I'm like torn about it. I'm actually curious to hear what you think about the show and like what you think like the premise and purpose is and how you would treat it and how you think about it.
Well, I think that we're in a world where having a personal brand will be rewarded, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think there's that's probably true, right? In a world where you have 1 million followers or 5 million followers, like you will never have the problem of being unable to launch a thing or get a client, right?
That's right. That's
And
right.
and the problem with that is like there's some minimum threshold where that matters, right? Being at 50,000 is not this. Actually, maybe that's not true. Well, at 5 million, you'll always have like a full plate, right? And
Yeah.
the problem with that is like it's hard to get 5 million overnight.
Yeah.
And even if you were to get 5 million overnight, those people don't have a deep relationship with you.
Yeah.
So when you know that if your North Star is 5 million followers, I'm just making up a number, right?
Yeah.
Adding 16 at a time does nothing for you. That's,
Yeah.
every single 16 follower count day is like, yeah, it's like a green plus like in the spreadsheet, but it's really right. And so like, I mean, you know this, like this is what you tell your clients, right? But like, if you have your North Star, you have to pick your strategies appropriately.
Yeah, totally.
Like, if I want to get to the moon, I can't be like, well, let me make my engine go faster. It's like, no, 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 you'll never get there.
Yeah.
There's no feasible path in this lifetime, right?
Yep.
So, like, that's why I ask them, like, like, is somebody doing research on this, right? Because like your team's
Yeah.
probably good at a lot of the tactical stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do the hard thinking. The hard thinking is,
Totally.
is like picking the right vehicle.
Yeah, totally. And I will tell you the other thing too that's really interesting about this is that it it's not even the metric that I show that actually matters. It's the brand. It's the subjectivity of it. It's like when I meet someone new,
Yeah.
it's very fun for them to know I have a show called The Girl Dad Show.
Oh
It
yeah.
makes like most people laugh. And then if they're successful, I say, hey, I interview successful people like you, and I question you on your ethics and integrity on how you justify being that successful while raising a family. And I record it and I share it with my followers. And
Oh,
then they usually laugh and they think it's hilarious. And I'd tell you, half of them will say, I'd love to be on the show, and it immediately builds this like ridiculously weird rapport with the successful person that I just met cold. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it has nothing, that KPI can't be tracked, because I just, my goal would be, I'd be happy when I think about like growing this thing. I'm like, I might as well grow it. But when I think about like what success is, just the fact that I'm meeting 10 interesting people that are more successful than me every year, that's a huge success. That's like almost one a month. Do you know what I mean? That I'm meeting. That's just like a random person that I'm like, this person is dope,
yeah.
very interesting, and way more successful than me. I'm like, that's pretty cool, you know? And so I should be happy, but I always go like, well, then why am I looking at the data?
Um, I mean, I think you can have your cake and eat it too. Like
Yeah.
those aren't mutually exclusive things. Um, uh, who are like two people last year that you talked to that you're like, oh, that was really cool.
Oh man.
Just or just like one, anyone, just like somebody you're like, oh, that's kind of dope.
Well, I mean, I don't want to like a single too many of the guests out, but let me think here. Which one was last year? Last year was season 3.
Yeah.
So like Shane Neiman's pretty cool. Um, Shane Neiman is like the Neiman Ventures. He's pretty prolific angel investor. He led the seed round for Figure.ai, and then he then proceeded to pro rata and lead the Series A, and now he's leading the Series B. Um,
How did you connect with them? Cold or?
I got introduced through the pull service business,
Oh,
and he was making an investment in another pull service company, and my name got thrown in as a SME to give him feedback and diligence, and we connected, hit it off, and then I invited him.
okay.
And at that point, he was making some major investments and acquisitions, and I just was like, "This is crazy." It's like the stuff he was working on was nuts. Like, and that was pretty cool. I never would have access to that. Um, I interviewed Kara Hoganson, was pretty cool, for SVP of Principal Life Insurance. That was pretty baller. She
Okay.
sat on the board of one of the startups I worked at many years ago, and she's like, I mean, Principal's like, $100 billion company, and she's like one of like the top, like I think she's in the top 10 or top 15 executives at that massive organization. It's pretty fun, to be able to talk to someone like that.
I guess what I'm thinking is like, and so when you do those, like those interviews help drive followers and stuff.
It doesn't actually.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, the ones that I think are cool don't necessarily drive followers. It's just fun for me, and then I have a really close bond with them. I mean, like, what's really interesting about doing, I don't know if you experienced this, but almost every guest messages me afterward and says, "Thank you so much for having me on the show." And I'm like, "Why?" And almost every guest, and they say like, dude, like I've reconnected with like family, I've reconnected with friends, I've like rehashed like old relationships, and I'm like, really? It's like, they're like, yeah, I mean, I've been on podcasts before and I've been on things before, but I've never like had a chance to like reconnect with people that I haven't talked to in 10 or 15 years, and they happen to watch the show. And I get that text all the time, and it's like kind of cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so a lot of people enjoy it for that reason, because I think when they post it on their social, like people from the woodworks go and watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. And so then they feel like they catch up with this person, and they reach out, and then they reconnect with their old friends and family they haven't talked to. And so that's kind of that. But that's the metric that is really unique for me. But it's not a big follower count for them. The people that are interesting to me, the people that give me the most followers are the ones that have a bigger following than me.
Got it.
So I've had some that are like, influencers, and they already have a brand. And so that's kind of who I should be targeting. But I also don't, I mean, I also wanted to make sure that it's legit. Like I want them to be legitimately successful, and so I can ask them the questions.
How? Okay, okay. I hear that. I'm so interested in this, right? So what you're saying, look, Grow That Show gives you a couple of things, right? One, it's potentially a vehicle for you to, have professional success and that kind of stuff, whatever, right?
Yeah,
It's like economic and sort of, and also like non-economic success indicators. But the other thing is, it's kind of a cool thing to have. It's like I have a cool wood shop, right, or whatever.
yeah,
It's
that's
like
true.
an
That's true.
interesting thing about you, right? And that's like you would pay for that, right? Like let's say if somebody said today, Young, you'll never make another dollar from Girl Dad Show,
Yeah,
and, and not only that, you'll have to pay uh, to keep the brand alive.
yeah,
In exchange, every time you meet someone interesting, you can say, "Hey, man, I got this podcast," and they'll be like, "Oh, I want to be on it."
yeah.
Like that would be worth it. You would pay for that, right? Because I meet interesting people, and they're
But
like, "Oh,
yeah, it's funny because you just described my life right now. That's not even a consequence. That is literally what I'm doing right now. In order to host a podcast and do all this stuff, it's so much more work than you can possibly imagine.
yeah,
Even with AI, it's so annoying. Like you need to schedule them, and so you need to stay on an email to manage their schedule.
yeah,
Once you get their schedule, you need to get a release form because you're going to use their media types. They need to sign off on a contract. Then you need to get them. They have a million questions. You have to get a one sheet and then answer all their questions that they have about the show, the context, the logistics, all that stuff. Then you need to pay for all the services that host it and then distribute it to all the major. It's freaking nuts. It ends up being like hours and hours and hours of work, and that's even using AI for all of it. Like I'm using AI to edit it. I'm using AI to edit the clips. I'm using AI as much as I possibly can, and it still requires a team of people to go do this for 10 hours a week.
typically out of like let's say a single podcast with somebody um, actually interesting.
Yeah.
How many like pieces of content can you create out of that?
A lot. You can create a lot.
Is like
We don't do a
four
lot though. Yeah.
15-minute clips, a 11-minute clip, and then the whole thing, or
We if we do like we typically do 45-minute shows, right? And then we whittle it down to like 40 or 35 if you cut all the ums and ahs out. But you can make, I mean, 2 or 3 posts a day for a month with that.
okay, okay,
Because I mean, there's variations, right? You could do video snippets, you could do quotes, you could do a slips of different clips. Like there's so many. I mean, it's unlimited, man. You can do as many as you want, but it's just a matter of the imagination of the person and the tools that you have. But I mean, I think for me, I'm happy doing it. I just gotta like center myself and remind myself why I'm doing it, and then I try to remind myself why I'm doing it, and then I'm like, and then I get stuck into a vortex again, and then I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But I think you just helped me a lot because I think the reality is if that choice was, I would still pay for it. It is worth it, and it is fun for me, and it is personally fun for me. It just doesn't mean that the two things are mutually exclusive. It just means this is fun for me. I would do it to meet interesting people, and if I'm already doing it, I'm going to look at these metrics because why not? You know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
even if the metrics didn't show it, I'm still going to be doing it for these reasons.
that's right. Um, as a fun exercise, just like
Yeah,
hypothetical, theoretical one,
yeah.
let's think about what would it take to actually make it be also like economically valuable to you. Right?
That is, oh my gosh, that is the best conversation piece ever. I would love to talk about that because I actually don't think I've ever thought about it in the way of like, how do I make this monetizable, other than just growing it for about 3 years. I tried to grow it the first year, and then the second year I tried to monetize it, and I failed miserably. And then I just started doing it for fun, and then I haven't thought about it again. But I started thinking about that literally recently. That's so funny. So here's what I've come up with monetization. You need to get at least like 2,000 downloads a month, which we're very close to getting onto these ad networks. And then you can basically be shopped with these ad networks as part of aggregates. But then your payments are super small, right? Like, because I don't have a big distribution. So you get a percentage of whatever your downloads are. And then that's if they even choose to use you inside of their batch that they sell, like the media buyer sells. So it's an option, and that means it requires a lot of growth, but it's not lucrative or good ROI. The second thing that I was thinking about was sponsorships, like co-branding with the brand that wants to be branded with this and also have this very specific niche listener.
Okay.
But I don't know enough about my listeners, and I don't really know. Like, it's like random. Like, I'll like randomly meet people and they'll tell me they listen to the show, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's just like kind of all over the place. It's women, it's entrepreneurs, it's executives, it's like kind of random people. And so I don't know. I haven't done enough work on that, but I could do that, and I think I have a better chance of doing that than doing it through true influencer like metrics.
When you say influencer metrics, you're talking about like sufficient downloads and then getting like ad
Downloads and engagement.
downloads.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say downloads engagement, you're only talking about, I think, through like the podcast ad network. You're not talking about like TikTok and YouTube ad revenue.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you do you do Instagram Reels also? I assume like people just publish to all of them.
Yeah. The team publishes to all the platforms with social clips to all the platforms. Yeah.
Because all those other platforms also have revenue, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have a lot of followers to get there, but yeah.
okay, um,
You have
interesting.
to have like 10,000 followers to start, and then you have to have like, I don't know the metrics, man, but it's like it's definitely taking it seriously,
Okay, we're
and
talking
which
about
yeah.
tens of thousands, right? Like
Yeah.
1,000 doesn't do enough. Like
Hmm.
100,000, you're definitely good. So just like that order of magnitude.
That's right.
Um, okay. What's the and you can like bleep this all out if you need to, but like what's like the current like approximate monthly burn to run the podcast?
So minus my time, I'd say it's roughly around $2,500 a month.
Okay, it's not bad at all. Um,
No, 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 no.
I mean, and really at that rate, if you close like, if you end up getting one new consulting client net out of this every year, you're flat.
Well, and that's what I said earlier. I don't know if you caught it. I said, I mean, if I can get one of those 10 people to become a client, it basically pays for the podcast, and so it's pretty nice. I mean, like yeah, it's totally doable. And I will say the podcast is technically paid for itself if you count it like that, because I have gotten at least one, if not more, clients every year from it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and the types of content you do are essentially like a um, interview founder operator, something like that. B, just kind of shoot the shit. Um,
Yeah.
and maybe C, like something topical, like homeschool or something like that, parent tutoring.
Yeah. Well, the thesis was this year. So every year we've tried something different. First year was me just interviewing guests. Second year we did interviewing guests plus telling my personal story about building businesses. So I did alternating like journal diary, right? So I just did like a self talk about, and I just shared everything. It was like super vulnerable. It was like I shared every detail of money and how much money I lost and made and everything. I just talked about it. And then that didn't really work. Third year, we tried to bring in, or second year was it, or third year? I can't remember. There's season 3. I think I brought in like influencers, other parent influencers, to see if I can cross pollinate reach with each other, right? So other content creators that were parents, and so I brought a lot of those on, like parent coaches, and people in the industry that had other parents following them, right? So I can like cross
Also,
pollinate.
parent coaches,
Yeah,
like as in parents who are coaches, or people who coach parents.
the latter. I guess they're both technically, but yeah, the latter.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like hey, don't bully your kids. And so, like, is that what you mean by parent coaches?
I think that's a very small subset of it. I think a lot of it is it's like borderline therapy, right? Like helping you learn technical and tactical skills that are good for child rearing while also being there for you to help you understand when you're losing it or when you're not, and like helping you find ways to like, like, so like a parent coach would be the one that tells you remember, I don't know if you've seen that Instagram, and I may have sent it to you because we always get the same reels because we're like the same person, but the one where it's like, I had this thing where some old guy told me like, whenever your kids are frustrating you and you're so upset and you're so stressed out, literally imagine you being 80 years old and like wishing you had this moment again, and then live in that moment for 30 seconds and then open your eyes, and you will be so grateful for the mess that they're creating and the chaos that they're creating, and you'll just enjoy it. You'll enjoy the mess and chaos. And there's like this, it's super good reel. It's very, very like high view count, and I love it. But the parent coach would do stuff like that.
Okay. I
You know
was
what I mean?
I was
Yeah.
just trying to clarify what you meant by parent coaches.
Yeah.
I might take that offline with you to ask you about it later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll introduce you to the ones I interview. You should go interview them as well. I'll send you the links to the guest interviews as well.
Yeah,
It's
I'll,
super
I'll
fun.
watch them. So how did the parent influencers and parent coaches go?
Not good.
Not good. Oh, interesting. So that didn't go
Yeah.
well. Do you have a
At
theory
all. It
why?
was a huge waste of time and huge failure. Yeah, because it just like I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it personally, and it didn't work for engagement or followers or growth, and it wasn't interesting for me.
Why wasn't it
And
interesting for you?
I don't really care about how to raise children better.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't really like, I'm not doing this to be like the best child development psychologist. Like, I
Right.
don't care. Like, dude, I don't care. Hey, I have a wife for that reads books, like, for like follows 90s Instagram influencers for this. Like, I don't need that. That's not interesting to me. I want to know how you justify being so successful, and what do you think about success and your kids, and like, and how do you parlay that, between business. That stuff's interesting to me. I mean, the struggle between, like creating $1 billion business, the amount of time and energy and focus it takes to do that, and the sacrifices you have to make against your kids and family to achieve that, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. For me, anyway. Sorry, that's not interesting. I mean, that might not be interesting for most people, but that's interesting because, like, I think about my dad, right? My dad was very successful. He went from poverty to very, very high success, but he spent like jack shit time with us. Do you know what I mean? Like, he spent absolutely no time with us, and it's almost like now we're rebuilding a relationship, and it's super awkward because we haven't been friends for 30 years, and so I just think that, like, yeah, you have this great success, but what did you sacrifice for it? And like, my dad's a bad example. I love my dad, and it's great. And we talk a lot more now, and we're much better off relationally. And it's not like I ever was upset with him growing up either. I understood what he was doing. He was making an intentional sacrifice to bring us out of poverty. But the reality is, like, all the success takes sacrifice. And I think that that's interesting and that's fascinating. And so when you ask me, like, why wasn't that interesting to me, it's because once I understood the concept of what you're doing, like, once I got 2 layers in, I just think it's your opinion. Like, I think it's like not really. I think it's like pseudoscience, because it's kind of like gentle parenting, like, like, or like open parenting. There's this new thing where you don't. It's beyond gentle parenting, where it's like you don't have any control. Like, Naval did this. Naval does this, where he doesn't. He lets the kids use iPad or whatever. He doesn't. He just basically works with them like they're adults, and like coaches them on consequences, but ultimately lets them make their own decisions about how much iPads they use or whatever. And he's a completely a genius guy with this weird child development rant. But like, I think that that's cool. But then once I get into it, I'm like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to do that. I don't know. I just, like, I feel like what I want to do is, try to basically, like, um, raise them to be good humans and do the best that I can. But I guess I'm I guess I'm not in the search for the perfect way to be a parent. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think there
Oh,
is.
got it. I
Yeah,
see why that season was uh, not interesting to you. Why do you think it didn't work for getting increasing follower count? Maybe
I
it's
have
also
a.
boring to everyone else.
That's what I think too. I think it's really, really not fun to listen to someone scientific tell you how you're a shitty person or a shitty parent.
Okay, but these people have big followings, right? Like I don't know, like
Some of them do, yeah, they do, and they help the the ones that are missing a system or a process. Maybe, I don't know.
so what that means is like Dr. Becky has like a huge audience, and then
Yeah,
on the other side, like you know, I don't know, Jeff Bezos has a huge audience, and the overlap of those two sets is the null set.
maybe. I think I just have a very small subset of people that care about this topic. I
Okay,
think that's really what it is. It's just a really weird topic, right?
that's
I
fine. That's
mean,
fine. Okay, and then so
Amy says this a lot too. She just says, like, the like, I think people care more when you talk about your story of, like, business building or talking about kid. People like things to be more simple, and I think, like, I like to be more abstract, and it's just not fun. And it's not fun. It's not fun for people. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
all right, and so what's the strategy or what's the experiment for season four?
Season 5, the new strategy for season 5, and then we can wrap up here. Which is, this has been amazing. Thank you for just walking me through this, because I've been, like, really struggling with this. Okay, because we're ending season 4 here the next month, and then we take a 2-month break, and then we relaunch in Father's Day, and then we always test new things, and I don't know what to test. So the idea is to test this year is structured interviews. So focus more on guest interviews, but actually mix the content theme, because the content theme of having these controversial topics is working. So like home, compound living, like bullying, like this stuff works, right?
Yeah.
But having the guest interview also works good too. So doing more guest interviews, but in inserting more content themes into that guest interview is what it is.
Okay. Okay.
And then I personally think that what I want to do, and again, I haven't talked to the team about this, is like use more AI to like create just a ton of content, just like rip social media and just like blast it on different channels and just go nuts.
Okay. I mean, okay. All right. I can see that.
What
Uh,
do you think? Go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions.
uh, Look, if guest interviews works, great, and specific topical content is working, great. I think it seems, sometimes it might be obvious that if A works and B works, just combine A and B.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's also dumb, right? Like I really like ranch dressing and I really like ice cream, and those two should not. A plus B is not a good thing, right?
Uh,
Do you have a reason to believe those? Like the, I mean, I can see why it works, right? Like just from a headline perspective, a lot of people are interested in bullying, and then the algorithm like knows that you're reading about bullying, and then it like serves you more bullying content. So it makes sense. There's a fundamental underlying reason why that works.
yeah,
There's
the
also
mathematical, mechanical reason. Yeah, absolutely.
a reason why famous people work, right? Or like known
Yeah,
people work, right? So
yeah,
famous people works because they're part of the algorithm, and
right.
then non-famous people work because they're excited, so they share to their own personal networks.
Yeah,
You have to get above a certain threshold where the networks they share to are big enough. So like you almost have to like filter for people who already have 1,000 LinkedIn followers or more or something like that. And it's like
yeah.
you're kind of like chasing stars, and that I don't know. It doesn't feel that great. Um,
Yeah, I keep telling myself like I should just stop it,
Oh fuck
because
that!
no.
I'm not not on that train at all. I think you should double down.
Double down.
Yeah, yeah. But
I got, and just in full transparency, I hate them saying this because all the listeners are gonna think I'm like a freaking douchebag. But I brought my cost down from $2,500 from $5,000. So I just want to make sure everyone knows, like it used to cost me a lot more to run this thing. So the first year I did as much of it as myself as I could,
yeah,
but it was too much. It was just too much work. It was like 15, 20 hours a week. So I started outsourcing it, and then it ended up costing me like $5,000 a month to get all these things done. And then now I got it down to 25, and I think I can get it done even further with more AI.
have you worked with like a podcast consultant?
I haven't worked with a podcast consult. That's a great idea. I
I
should do
mean,
that.
here's the thing: like, you're a consultant, that like shit that other people don't. Like, here, you've like fucking figured it out yourself, right? But like every business owner that you've ever met who's like
Hey,
an incredible.
that's a really good idea. There's actually a podcast conference that I was supposed to go in season 3, and I never went because I got busy. Do you want to go with me?
For like
Come with me.
look for like $250 and 1 hour of someone's time.
Yeah,
Somebody's definitely going to give you some best practices. And
that's
like,
right. You are
ignore
so
everything they
smart.
say about like, oh, you should do content on blah blah blah, because fuck them. But
Yeah, tactical
they
stuff is
will know
bullshit.
stuff like, oh, why are you using this process? You could shave like 30% of your labor hours here. Because
Mm,
they've produced 600 of these or whatever.
yeah.
Um,
I will definitely search. If you can think of any podcast consultants, please let me know. And then anyone listening know any podcast consultants, please hit me up and ping me. But Eric, I'm being serious. There is a really big. There's a bunch of them, but there is a big podcast conference. You want to go with me?
Maybe.
I'll pay for you. I'll
Yeah,
pay for you. Yeah, let's go.
even better. Save me.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I think you should double down. I love
You think
this.
so?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely think you should. But you should only double down if you have a strategy. Just doubling down to double down is stupid, right? Like if you, I think, like I'm literally doing back to you what you do to your clients, but like
Yeah.
you need a clear north star. Like what
Yeah.
are they willing to do this for? It has to be simple. Like it can't be like 16 different things. Like like
Yeah.
X followers and this many people and this many clients. It's like pick one. Pick one first, and then the secondary ones. Because look, I guarantee you, if you get to like 50,000 followers or whatever, like you will, the other things will happen automatically.
Dude,
Like
if I got 50,000 followers, I'd be so successful. It'd be crazy.
I
I don't need that many followers. Oh, I see what you're saying on like Instagram and stuff like that.
no,
I'm
whatever.
really focused on
I'm just saying,
LinkedIn.
like,
I don't really do
oh,
I don't really compete on the main channels. Maybe I should actually, because like I feel like Instagram is like not my like on LinkedIn you can get like 50,000 followers. You're basically an influencer, and you'll never have to work to basically distribute a product again for your life.
um, hold up, dude. Okay, I've got some ideas for you.
Oh, do you?
I want to test them now.
Okay, yeah, give me all of come to my next come to my next
I'm
come to
invested.
my next podcast meeting, yeah, strategy meeting.